I sit on a Friday night talking with old friends on FaceTime while we reminisce about the fun we had in high school. We were stressed, but we always managed to laugh about it. I look over and see my roommate not there, and then I smell the room. A very stale smell that makes me feel uneasy. I look at all my friends through the screen and see how happy they are in their dorms as I listen to their accounts about the fun they've had over the last few months. I then ask myself, how are they so happy with the decision they made, and what can I do to make myself this happy? Their comments about friends and adventures made me feel hollow inside. I then thought about walking alone to class and eating alone in the cafeteria and not having anyone to go to football games with. Me and my roommate were friends, but we needed our time away from each other. I went through all their colleges and asked myself, what is so special about these places that makes mine feel so lonely? It was 1 o'clock in the morning and everyone said goodbye. Some were going to parties, others to see friends, and others to sleep. I then texted one of my close friends, Randy, and asked her about her experience, and she responded, I hate it. Those words made me feel so satisfied. I wasn't alone. I saw her pictures and thought, it can't be that bad. I then asked her if she wanted to be sad together. She said that would be great. So I took out my computer and started my VCU application. I had discovered the first step, finding where I did not belong. It was a gloomy morning. I was still tired from the night before. I made my coffee and got into the car. I was filled with excitement due to the events of the upcoming weekend of Eagle Eyrie, but I had a feeling of anxiety I couldn't shake. I sat in the chair beside my best friend of only 3 months and joked around as we waited. I was told not to come 3 times, but couldn't resist the urge to be there. The doctor came in with a long face as they diagnosed my best friend with breast cancer. She started getting really red and crying, and all I could do was sit there while her world fell apart. I remember the room being cold and everyone crying. While walking out, I was told, I can't believe you didn't cry. I was crying, but I didn't want her to see. As soon as we got into the car, rain started pouring down as I sat and watched her call her family. I was in shock. I leaned over and hugged her and promised to be there for her and take her to every single appointment. After 3 hours, I left to go on my trip. The whole weekend was a blur. I cried the whole time and I couldn't keep it together for the youth. Earlier on that week, she had told me she wasn't going to fight if it was cancer. She then called me later on to tell me she was going to fight like hell for me and her family. I returned home and laid beside her in her bed and held her hand. I had bothered her about being my soulmate best friend for a week. Time after time she claimed she wasn't. She then told me, Hannah, you're here for a reason. God brought you to be with me. You're my soulmate best friend. In that moment, I began to feel the same feeling I gained when transferring. I belonged. It was a warm late night in the city of Richmond. Not a cloud in sight. I was riding in the back of a car, speeding down the highway with the music roaring and the windows rolled down. It reminded me of the quote from the book, The Perks of Being a Wallflower. In that moment, we were infinite. I shouted, I love Richmond. Then one of my friends turned around and yelled, Richmond loves you too. It was a call and response I wasn't expecting at all. I then thought back to something my old teacher told me before I transferred. I had considered moving back to my hometown, and she said, You've already conquered this town, go conquer the next. I began to think of all that I left behind. I felt free, and I could all of a sudden see the future. I was no longer a high schooler who missed the life she left behind. I found my focus, I found myself. So who am I? I'm a ram with pride for her school. I'm a best friend who took the position of caretaker. I'm a young woman putting her heart into her experience of life. The events of my life have shaped me into the person I was meant to be.